We are going to move to the business and branding segment on the show. And Jimmy, I know I got to look at this camera over here. And we're going to talk about how to stop treating, we're going to stop about how to stop treating procrastination like a minor issue and call it what it really is. It's poison for your brand. Yep. You're getting your day started. You're getting your business started. Tina, let's lean into today to wrap the show up. The top 5 excuses people lean on. And actually, I think even Maya might have talked about one of them. But let's hit the top 5 excuses people lean on when they drag their feet building their brand and how to crush them. Let's get to number 1. And I love this one. Excuse number 1 is why people aren't having any progress. I'll post when I have something perfect to say.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No,
because you're never going to have something perfect to say. And perfection doesn't exist in this game very much, especially when you're talking about building your personal brand. And what I've learned from working with so many different people is that perfect idea of what you have to say, you can't even see it because it's not what you think is perfect. It's what your audience thinks is perfect. And in order to be able to determine what your audience needs from you or what perfection is to them, then you need to actually post and you need to get out there and you need to be experimenting with content to see what resonates. Because otherwise, we talk about it all the time. It's like the creator's dichotomy. The shit that you spend 4 hours on to create the most beautiful post that you think, you genuinely believe is really going to nail it when it goes out, gets 3 likes, 3 engagements. The shit that you just go off the cuff and you say it and you send it always gets way more engagement. Because you're not overthinking, you're not waiting for perfection, you're just doing, and people are responding to like the natural ability to just say, this is what I feel, and this is what I got to say.
So then is it quantity over quality or quality over quantity? Somebody who's back going, I got to make this perfect post. What you're saying is that just get it done and get it out.
And I've really struggled with this. I struggle with this with my own brand because we know the importance, and I knew the importance of figuring out what I was going to say, what I was going to be known for. But what I realized is that doesn't come. Like you can have, I want you to start with a thesis. I want you to say, I think people are going to respond to this part of me. I think people really need this because they have a problem and I think I can provide that solution, and start with that thesis, but then experiment relentlessly. Mm-hmm. Get out content, write. Writing is where you're going to come upon a lot of personal growth. And over time, you're going to start creating these connections. But those connections really come with reps. I'm not saying to send literally anything out, but I would rather have my clients send anything out than waiting for the perfect post and sending that out once a week. It's never going to work.
I love your excuse number 2 you have written down here, Christina. I'm too busy. I'm too busy to work on my brand. Christina, the response is?
You haven't sorted out that your brand is the most important part of your business.
Yeah.
Everything that you're doing, anything you're trying to sell is going to come back to you and people connecting with you and the trust they have in your ability to deliver your skills and your viewpoint and your expertise based on your unique offering. If they don't connect with you, it's never going to happen.
So something's happened here in society in the last number of years with this personal branding stuff. So in the past, I want to just think this out loud with you.
Yeah.
In the past, we worked as human beings. We collected a bunch of experience. And then around that experience, society and work culture wanted that experience put onto a resume or CV. Mm-hmm. And that's how we articulated ourselves to society. A piece of paper, Christina lists her experience on. In many ways, it's the old school, the front of your LinkedIn portfolio. Here's your experience. That's what you've done. But that shift now, though, is that people are expecting so much more, right, Christina? Right? Mm-hmm. It's not so much as working, accumulating a list of experience. The shift now is as you're working and building that experience, there's the personal brand idea, Christina, is about that expectation that you're sharing that experience along the way, right? So that when you're looking to shift in your life, that experience moves you through that shift. Am I correct? Because yesterday it was like, okay, I'm going to work, build all my experience. Then when it comes to go and get a new job, I'm going to go open up my resume and accumulate all that experience. And then I'm going to go and find a new job. But what you're now saying with today's personal brand, and back to the point, which is I'm too busy to work on my brand, what you're actually saying was, no, Keith, as you're working, you should be selling yourself and telling the world about your current experience so that when you're ready to make a pitch, when you're ready to make that pivot in the future, it just happens naturally. That's the change with personal branding. Am I correct?
It just makes things easier. And you know what it helps you to do? It helps you to define what has all this experience done for you as well. It's not just about your current employer, because sometimes it can be your current employer and then you go into the job hunt and then you just jump right into the next thing. I work with a lot of clients that have just left a job or career transitioning, maybe because they've been laid off, maybe because they got out of mat leave and they didn't want to go back. But if you're presented with this opportunity, it's so easy to be like, these are the skills that I have. And this resume defines what these skills are. And forget about the fact, do you even like those skills? Do you even enjoy that work? Maybe you're the best at it, but do you actually like it? Is that how you want to spend your time in your day? And I'm not talking about blowing the whole thing up, but I'm talking about doing something over time that helps you to define, where do I want to focus my efforts? It may not be in the very next job, but it may be in the job following that. And that's the challenge with, I think, personal brand, is that it is a long tail thing. It's not going to happen overnight. And trust me, I have to sell people on doing this work. That's a hard sell, to say this is going to take time. It's going to take months. But I promise you, if you put in the time and if you put in the effort and the energy and commit to growing and growing through the fear and the worries that you have about the judgment, it will benefit you.
And I think that what you're talking about is, I'm going to jump to excuse 4 here before I come back to number 3, but to build your personal brand, you're going to be doing it on social media. So an often excuse is social media can wait. If you're waiting for social media, then you're also waiting on building your personal brand. You're also waiting on showing the world what you're all about. And listen, for somebody right now, maybe like, that's not for me. That's fair.
Totally fine.
But in your journey of life, when you wake up, and I've been there, nation, men, I've been there. You wake up and, okay, I need to make a pivot, and you have nothing there to pivot to. That's why I've spent the last year of my life recreating myself with this, my brand again, with Live in the Lab and Mornings in the Lab and this talk show type experience, because I lost my whole personal brand when I went as a ghost 8-10 years ago. Social media can't wait if your personal brand is important to you. The excuse that social media can wait, Christina, answer that one.
Let's dig into this further. You stepped away, and then for the last year, you have spent time building your brand. That's a very technical, practical approach to it. Tell me the most surprising thing that you've learned in the last year about building your brand.
The most surprising thing the most surprising thing is how much scammers are out there. But all that aside, and I knew that, but until you really get into it, oh yeah, okay, there's a lot of fucking fakery out here. Again, the most surprising thing for me has been a refreshing thing, actually. And this is what I hope will be encouraging to everybody. What hasn't been surprising but has been refreshing is how open people are to realness. People want to see realness. It's, oh yeah, okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. No. Look at Maya was stressed about or excited about coming to the show, stressed, never been on a show before. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just show up and have some fun.
Sorry to interrupt. Would you say that a year ago before you started, you knew what the real Keith was?
I don't know what you mean by that. Cause listen, I've known who the real Keith is for a number of years. I think Keith has gone through a rebuilding process listen, my identity forever has been linked to my past career. So at ICUC, so coming out of that has been a challenge for me. It's been a challenge, and it's taken me some time to get past that. You start this baby, you create it, you sell it, and then it's no longer yours. So that, and then my brand was attached to that. But I don't know if it was so much who I am. Who am I now? I'm proud of who I am now. Who as I was yesterday, there's periods I was proud of that as well. But it's just part of our journey. I don't know. I've thoroughly enjoyed the last year of myself, of rebuilding my brand, coming back and rebuilding my network and meeting a bunch of great humans through my journey. Again, what's been most refreshing for me is how open people are to reality. and embracing imperfection.
And I think to me, that's the point. What I see with so many of my clients is that when they're asked to come out and build their brand, they're hesitant because they don't know who they are when they're not attached to that career, when they're not attached to that job, when they don't know who they are. They don't know what their identity is outside of the work that they've done. So when they go to build the brand, that's really jarring to say, am I just a lawyer? But I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore. So I got away from law. But now what the fuck do I want to be about? And what do I believe? And what do I care about? And what are the things that I have to say? And on top of that, we can't even see our own accomplishments. We can't see how great the things we've done in the past are and what are the lessons that have guided us throughout that journey. So to be able to tell someone, hey, come out and talk about that stuff, they have no idea where to start.
Yes.
Did you know where to start?
No, it was scary, right? I stepped my foot back into the LinkedIn water and just started observing and playing and observing and playing and just trying, right? And walking towards failure.
You had a thesis. You had a belief.
I did. I had a strong belief. It was, and then I'll go to your point number 3 on excuses why people don't get started. I'll launch after. I just started. When I got into this game of building a YouTube channel, a LinkedIn presence, a personal brand here, I just began. I had a fellow on the other side of the camera here a year and a half ago, and I was like, okay, what are we doing? I'm like, boom, let's do this. A lunchtime show, live, yada, yada, yada. We built it up. But I did not wait for number 2, which is the excuses. I'll launch after. Now, I'm the believer of let's just launch and then figure it out. Because I think humans, for the most part, Christina, and I think here's a positive rant for me. I think humans, for the most part, are most forgiving. But I think on the opposite side, we as OCD folks, we as entrepreneurs want perfection, when in reality, humans are very forgiving. They're like, oh, you've tried. It's not perfect, but you're trying. And yeah, I'm working even really hard to make it better for you. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. But yet we as humans often go, I'm going to launch until I get this thing fixed, and then I'll launch it next week, or I'll wait for 3 weeks. It's just, we never launch. Lean into that excuse.
We think what we've come up with in that moment, there's a lot of emotion around it. It's taken a lot of time to get there. So we believe that's the answer. Whereas you and I both know where you go and where you end up versus where you started is nowhere near the same thing. So that's the benefit of the just starting, is saying and having the humility to say, this is an idea. This is what I think. This is my thesis. But I know if history proves itself, where I start with this idea and where I end with this idea are not going to be the same thing. So I have to give myself the reps. I have to give myself the consistency to say, let's see where this goes. Let's test it. Let's experiment and be open to the shifts and changes that are going to come along the way. There's risk in that, of course. And I know that just start it's a privileged perspective, quite frankly, because a lot of people have been taught to not just start. A lot of people have been taught they have to be perfect. They have to work 10 times harder than everyone else. And they have one shot. And if you fuck up that one shot, you're never going to get it again. So I get that. I get that it's not just start. It's much more complicated than that. But maybe a different way to look at it is just start someplace. Mm-hmm. Just pick a thing. Have a thesis. Treat it as an experiment. Give that experiment time in market. Don't fucking post 3 times and tell me it's not working. The amount of times I have to have that conversation with people, but give it time. Yes. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, do that thing. Use the data, have that data inform your next step, plug it in and try it again.
Yes. And then the last excuse, guys, you're making is you're saying to yourselves, and I may have had a slight part of this as I was restarting. I'll network when I feel confident. No, you're never going to feel confident to network. Literally get into your DMs, go pick up the phone, go mail somebody, go to a offsite, an IRL event. But the reality is network, go talk to some folks. The best learning, actually, Christina, for me was starting a show, starting a podcast and connecting with human beings. And that was, if somebody wants to do ultimate networking, do this. If you want to build your network instantly, start a daily conversation with human beings. Stop having coffee in private. start creating a show, create a podcast, create a show.
But
and
I
meet
would
with-
never recommend anyone start here. And I'll tell you why. Because
Tell me.
the amount of work and effort and energy that goes into the creation of this
Yes.
is a skill all in and of itself. If you have a business and this isn't your only business, which it's not even yours, you're just very skilled at this work and finding and outsourcing talent to be able to pull it all together. This is very hard. It's very easy to say, just go to your network, ask them to be on your show, come on a show, and then you launch it and it's awesome. Meanwhile, it's really fucking complicated to do that. And more likely than not, if you try it this way first, with the exception of you, Keith, because you're an interesting little thing. We know this. You're gonna quit.
So fair comment, but I would invite somebody to do, Christina, though, is okay. Instead of maybe having the coffee in private with somebody, set up a podcast with somebody, have the coffee, create the content, and then do it again.
Or
and then do it again. Or
if that's not comfortable, I like to say, pick a platform, pick a format.
yes.
Do you like to write? Do you like to be on camera?
Yes.
Do you like audio? What is your way that you like to, and you feel most confident that you can show up that way more consistently? Next, you need to figure out what's the platform that aligns most with that format. And you need to go there and pick one platform first. Just start with that. So if you're not comfortable with the meeting and it being a podcast and the work that it requires around there, then cool. Take the meeting and then write about the lessons that you learned with that person and tag it. There's still a way to share those insights
Yes.
and still bring that to the world. Of course, ask permission for people. I know people are going to be like, I can't just do that shit without asking permission. But lean into what you like the most, even if it's the hardest for you, because that's what you're actually going to stick with. That's going to give you the greatest opportunity to stick with something.
Yes.